This world is divided into classes according to the combat rank, idea. People with low rank are rather outcasts of society. The main character John pretends to be weak rank F to hide his true strength. At school, he constantly suffers bullying from classmates who consider him trash. And here, another fight is interrupted by the teacher's appearance. He announced that the government designated their school as a site for conducting military training. The reason that helped the school get noticed was the strong 11th graders. Only one student from the entire school did not receive the title of soldier, and it was John. After class, he came to the teacher's room. The teacher suggested the guy transfer to another school where the program is easier. The guy assumed the teacher simply didn't want to have a student with F rank in the class. John asked the teacher if souls could really be divided by ranks, to which the teacher answered affirmatively and burst out laughing. Only John didn't think so. The bell drove everyone to class. The teacher asked to name the number present in each of the squads. The sergeant from the third squad called John a loser because he has the lowest rank. The teacher didn't pay attention to this and told that government scouts are currently within the school. They will observe the students. Battles between high school students will be held. Then the teacher turned to the sergeant of Squad 3. He said their group would oppose the 11th graders. They're the best in school, so the leader of Squad 3 fell into despair because of John on the team. A soldier approached him and began expressing his emotions and how much he can't stand him. In conclusion, he gave him the role of shield. Before the battle, participants of both squads were told to take their positions, after which the competition would begin. John, like everyone else, was given a special bracelet that uses Idea's power and protects the user from shock. As soon as the battle began, the leader of Squad 3 grabbed his shield, namely John, and moved across the battlefield with the thought of just holding out for the necessary 5 minutes for victory, and said the same to the whole team. At one moment, one of the girls on the opposing squad's team began attacking John, and instantly dense armor covered her body. John began to drag out time, and as a result, partially revealed his Idea power by creating an ordinary knife. But this didn't attract the opponent's attention. She finally lost interest. So John decided to unexpectedly attack from behind, although he didn't harm her. So this girl transferred her attention to the leader of Squad 3. She began pursuing him, and he kept trying to stay away. The reason for evasions rather than attacks was the search for the right item. Eventually, he came upon a stone of the right size and used the power of extraction and swing regarding this item. And although he managed to throw that chunk, behind him was already another opponent who hit the leader of Squad 3 and then switched to John. John has no desire to transfer to another school and releases his power. The entire opposing group attacks John, and he surprises everyone with his quick reaction and then quickly attacks. In conclusion, the opponent's bracelets break, and the third squad achieves victory. Meanwhile, a visitor comes to the director. His identity isn't revealed, but he's from the government. He reviews data on students. He's separately interested in John's data. The director asks him about why military training was introduced specifically for their school, to which the guest answers that preparation is underway for attacks from the east, and this system should help students change. The next day, John went to school and, as always, arrives early in the morning and does cleaning. After the battle with 11th graders, John noticed that people began treating him somewhat differently. They began using him for their purposes. When the teacher brought forms with indicated divisions for distribution, John stopped at the training division, whose leader was Sam. John intended to flee, but Sam pulled him into the training hall. Sam told everyone who wants to be in this division must perform a set of exercises for 10 approaches. All who do it correctly and at the right pace pass. John successfully coped with the task and passed into the division. They began mocking him, so much that he already thought not to go to training, but if possible to go home. Meanwhile, a girl entered the school office. She introduced herself as Corporal, a new student of the class, and met John. Immediately after this, Sam appeared, and he and this girl began measuring ranks. Then Sam and John still went to training. Corporal Casey was with them. The next day, this girl was already introduced to the whole class as a new student, who immediately showed her purposeful character, particularly by how she asked to be enrolled in Squad 3, not 1. As it turned out, her idea is the White Jade Goblin, the only idea that's passed by inheritance, and which one branch of the family has had and cherished for a long time already. With such a gifted and trained classmate, others began thinking whether to change the leader of Squad 3, and Casey tries to befriend John. Particularly, she helped him sort out the duties hung on him by others. The teacher put her in charge of distributing duties, and at the moment of distributing duties, the leader of Squad 3 approached her, who wanted to resolve the leadership issue. He came with his supporters. Only John intervened in the fight, stopping Casey's strike. That's where it ended. The next day, they organized the class with the first medical aid class from Sujun School, which was to be held at the bank. Students greeted the employees, and while they received no instructions, they settled in the building at their discretion. And John, meanwhile, conversed with the leader of the first medical aid class. He had in mind to transfer to them to the combat class. While all students relaxed, a group of people in uniform just entered the bank, a dangerous terrorist group that opposes all humanity. Bank employees who were nearby began shouting for students to flee and run to the exit. These terrorists closed the entrance to the bank with the help of Idea and immediately killed part of the employees. Casey decided to try to drag out time and oppose their gang leader. During their battle, John jumped out from hiding and said everyone should scatter, hide in the corners of the building. Jack, the terrorist commander, sent his comrades to find and grab the students. John agreed with the leader of the other school's class to have him go down to Casey. John himself remained and dealt with those commander's partners. The commander, at a certain moment of battle, aimed at the building's ceiling, so Casey had only to hold it, especially since classmates ended up under this chunk. Jack still went to see where his partners had gone. Only they had already been killed by John. A battle begins between John and this terrorist. He only becomes convinced that John is very strong and additionally sees information on the opponent's idea. It turns out the terrorist has two ideas. At least he revealed another of his powers, which indicated this. The terrorist commander, with the help of the second power and weapon, broke through the ceiling. Due to this, and the fact that the leader of Squad 3 appeared, the terrorist catches the moment and flees. And John tears into his classmate, because to exit the attacker's state, he needs to either destroy the opponent's idea or kill him. Casey and the leader of the first aid class from the neighboring school head toward them. Casey tries to distract John. A fight begins. Meanwhile, some memories from childhood break through in John. How, after his parents' death, his uncle and aunt took him in, who treated him cruelly. During one of the beatings, the uncle confessed that it was he and his wife who killed John's parents, and here, they also beat the dog before the kid's eyes. So, the guy's idea awakens in him and he kills them. John opens his eyes. It turns out he's in a hospital ward, and Casey, in conclusion, is alright. School life continues. John decides not to hide behind a mask but to work on himself, and his physical data grew significantly. One day, high school students were given instructions to engage in guerrilla training to improve their indicators and acquire skills. Students were divided into groups of 15 people. John was in the last one, which was for the weakest, but his partners quickly perceived him as a leader and showed good results in physical training. During idea training, John still managed to independently control himself and receive the highest number of points. When the time came for competitions between the best fighters of guerrilla training, its participants were in mud, which complicated movement. In the heat of competition, the director came, who decided to change the rules and bring all students into battle at once. He even invited reporters. Nevertheless, in conclusion, John emerged victorious by taking down more than 200 opponents and improving his skills during this battle. One day after training, Sam came upon a group from Squad 998 school and got into a fight with them. Since there were camera recordings, the information spread. Sam was defeated. Moreover, he was given a suspended sentence. So high school students gathered to discuss further actions and share information, particularly regarding their battle with this school in 15 days and how to hold out on the designated battlefield. Finally, the forces of both schools clashed in battle. Both sides had their action plan. Quite unexpected and strong strikes came from Nick from school 998. Judy, who performed the role of shield on one of the directions, barely held the defense, and precisely due to the fact that a team member came to help, she jumped back in time. Students of school 998 thought it was specifically Casey who defeated more than 200 opponents at those guerrilla competitions, which restrained them from sharp actions and generally slowed the attack. But now Nick had already joined them, who put their moods in place and entered battle with Casey. Casey decided to put on stronger armor. This irritated Nick even more, from which his attack power with hot steam increased. Casey's final strike forced Nick to retreat and stop this duel. However, John was already waiting for him, so another clash began. Kim even decided to use, without the instructor's permission, one of his special skills. From its action, the opponent could have memory problems if his emotional state didn't meet certain conditions. John decided not to stand on ceremony with him and reveal his power even more. Kim sent his charges to go further. At the destination point, they came upon Sam, who was already waiting for them there, and this time successfully showed his power. Meanwhile, John also took down his opponent, so he lost the desire and strength to resist. Kim fled from John, but on the way came upon Sam, from whom he also got it. The battle result was the capture of School 998's point. Thanks to John, the school began receiving a lot of support, and more students began coming to Sam's classes. From Casey's side, there were more jokes of a romantic nature, particularly about marriage. It's hard to say John was in great delight about this. Quite suddenly, among these jokings, some acquaintance of Casey's visited the school, whose name is Bill, and the first thing he did was challenge John to a duel. In the battle, John was irritated by words about ranks and elite, so he was tuned even more seriously, although after several strikes, Sam stopped the guys. Somewhat later, Bill wanted to talk with John. They went to the school roof, and there also began testing skills. In conclusion, Bill was pleasantly impressed by John's strength, although he himself showed a variety of techniques and how strong he is. Finally, John's meeting with the elder, Casey's grandfather, took place. During the conversation, the grandfather said he wants Bill to be Casey's husband, and if Casey doesn't become strong enough, he'll feed her Idea, the goblin, to that Bill. And additionally, he ordered John to stop communicating with Casey. Everything is already decided, which caused stormy emotions in the guy. But here Casey just interrupted the conversation. Despite all prohibitions, John presented the fact that he wouldn't obey, and they left. Meanwhile, monsters appear in the city, created from someone's idea. The Goblin family and others who monitor law and order deal with them. The lion monster wounded Bill, Casey's grandfather, so she, in a state of incredible anger, attacked the lion, although she didn't have enough strength to subdue it. Finally, John came. This is the first case when he can't study the opponent's idea. He managed to read the opponent's idea only when he revealed his idea to the maximum. John was able to inflict many strikes and cuts on the lion, but at the moment it confused him and brought him to a mad state with its words and ability to empathize. It got to the point that the main character decided to commit suicide, combining this with the thirst to kill the opponent. With a new technique, he defeated the lion, but went completely mad himself, attacked several allies, even Casey couldn't stop him. However, she still took the step and thrust a sword into John. This brought him to his senses, but soon he lost consciousness. John woke up already in the hospital, where he was informed about the established first danger level. He is a threat to people, the city, etc. Although the man who came to inform about this covered everything, annulled it, John was temporarily sent abroad to come to his senses, gather strength, go through the local training program. Having arrived, he met with a few more of his partners who also had to go through the training program. The guys were gathered and immediately began to be familiarized with what was happening. The matters concerned murders, a greater number of crimes. They also met Violet. She's a vampire and manages the U.S. Army Special Forces Unit Delta. She liked John's skill of reading others' ideas, even invited him to join Delta. He was tasked with looking for an idea similar to a blade. It was established that the people who need to be found should be located at the airport and brothel. First, John and his partners engaged in reconnaissance at the airport, and then data appeared that in the slums nearby, they noticed a trace of the leader from the Thousand Heavens sect. The vampire went there together with John. On the way, she received a message that most of the killers were spotted at the airport, just at the one they left from. So Violet went there, and John drove to the second destination point, where Jack the Ripper and the sect leader might be. When he and the driver arrived there, John understood it was a trap, and Delta would be better off saving themselves, but he still hurried to help them. The Ripper used her ability and covered all opponents with a dome filled with gas, from which everyone suffocated except John. A clash began between the main character and the Ripper and sect leader. The leader tried to put John in a trance, but unsuccessfully. John began revealing his idea, but the thirst to kill overwhelmed him, and he tried to take this feeling under control. Thus, his new ability appeared, Destructive Blade of Darkness and new weapon, a sword that absorbed the desire for murder. The absorbed intention turns into spikes that can attack or defend the owner. With these improvements and mastering emotions, John could freely oppose Jack the Ripper and show what he's capable of. Having finished with the girl, he switched to the sect leader, but he managed to escape. And then, he ordered the spikes to scream so loudly that the vampire would hear and fly to them. Violet said his translator returned alive and even fully described the opponent's plan. And now with John's friends, they headed to the prison. The main character understood this was another trap and needed to hurry to help, because there the sect leader could use 13,000 prisoners for his purposes. And here Violet receives a message that a person with the highest idea rank was killed. The monsters that were released are very strong and they're rampaging through Beijing. She sets course for Beijing and tells John to head to that prison and stop the sect leader. Upon arriving at the place, John was shown camera recordings. Prisoners were praying and his friends with a translator were also there. The main character went straight to them, as if into the enemy's clutches, and first met the translator. Having manipulated the fact that John's friends are under the sect leader's control, the translator forced the main character to calmly follow him. So John meets with the sect leader, and he demonstrates the ritual he seeks to conduct. It all begins with prisoners throwing themselves at each other and killing. In this chaos, the translator also tried to kill John, but in conclusion received a beating himself. The main character reached the cult leader too. Meanwhile, Violet scouts the situation in Beijing and understands that the attackers who were here headed to John. While John was dealing with the leader, something broke through the building's ceiling and it was a monster, the fourth monster from the book. He didn't listen to the cult leader's talk and killed him himself, and then turned to John to have him demonstrate his cruelty. But after expressing refusal to do this, the monster decided to manifest his cruelty on everyone who was in this building. He pushed the ground, everything began to collapse. John decided to try to absorb everything, but he didn't have enough energy to support everything. The monster, observing John, concluded that he was growing and his level of cruelty was also increasing. So he decided for now to leave him alive and go himself where there's even more cruelty. Hearing this, John rose and decided to take a risk. He released and revealed even more of his power and attacked the monster. With each attack, John, besides better opposing the monster, also went more mad and revealed a skill that neutralized the monster's skills, which angered him considerably. Also, the main character opened a new ability of self-destruction, Twin, and could use the artifact sword used against demons. Everything together increased his power threefold, and when striking blows at the enemy, traces appeared in the same places in John 2. Finally, he decided to strike blows at the enemy's heart, an already completely lost strength, and the monster left that place. At this time, Jack, the man who was the leader during the terrorist act at the bank, is actually part of some mysterious and even more dangerous affair. The boss and affair he serves pose a threat to humanity, because it's even said that good and evil will exchange places. Good will become evil, and evil, good. What's interesting is this boss is a personality who can summon all animals from David's book. He proclaimed the city his sacred residence and declared holy war. Meanwhile, in the hospital, John comes to his senses. The nurse says she's not sure she can fully heal him. Despite Mr. Alex's request to give the body a chance to recover better, John still decided to visit the leadership meeting on current global issues, particularly regarding the death of the man with the highest rank in battle with monsters from David's book and the strike on New York. After the meeting, Alex told John to independently gather a squad. Taking into account the situation, police were deployed for patrolling. John and Casey also walked the districts and watched that everything was calm. Creatures seeking to return the world to chaos activated. Their boss, who called himself the Red Dragon, representative of sin, contacted representatives from people. He spoke about revelation, about towers that will appear in various places and relics need to be brought there. Among them, maybe this needed revelation, or there's an option to clear the tower and then they won't touch the relics and people. The thing is, one of the towers appeared on the territory of an orphanage, which John and Casey just visited. Children went there out of curiosity, and together with them, the main character and Casey. In the tower, the first thing to meet them was an onslaught of lizards. There were still very many different reptiles on the path. Beasts appear continuously for an hour. Then there's a 10-minute break and they appear again. But even more terrible, partners hurried to help them. While they came, John in his anger and cold-bloodedness had already reached the last stage, the tower's floor. Especially, the catalyst was that while he slept, Casey became very exhausted and he simply couldn't be stopped anymore. And on the last level, a knight, Isaac, was waiting for him. John found himself in a difficult position. The hero uses the technique of planned cruel murder. The more of the opponent's abilities are revealed, the greater the probability of murder becomes. Alex and Violet also entered one of the towers with a team, and immediately met a monster that killed approximately 200 people with high rank. It turned out that among Alex's marionettes is a bear, the one from David's book. Their team battle was interrupted by Jack's appearance. He had a power that limited Idea's action. He was dragging out time so reinforcements wouldn't reach John. Near the very tower where John was, his partners who came to help had already gathered. Only a guy blocked their way, who outwardly, at first, resembled their friend. However, it wasn't him. The one who called himself the Red Dragon killed this guy and took his face himself. Here Isaac approached him, who began asserting they were of the same race, although this monster denied everything, saying he started a war with God, and along with that indicated he found the relic, after which he grabbed the girl who was near John and told her with the help of his powers to extract the hidden side of the relic. John didn't have enough strength to help. By some miracle, the dragon also brought the uncle and aunt as images, and they began beating the powerless John. The child began breaking away from that red-skinned creature. She saw this and ordered the little one to look at John and not look away as he's beaten, because she didn't want to use her skills. John was in that state where he no longer listened to his resistance to the desire to kill. He followed it, and was in a state of uncontrolled madness and didn't pay attention to who was before him. Everyone noticed that from outside the tower began to disappear, and disappeared completely. The red-skinned one spoke about John's current state as about the first beast that the devil himself created for himself. He belonged precisely to him. Only John was in such a state that he didn't react to anything. So, the red-skinned one gave the order to kill John. He had even more mad power compared to everything that was before this. The red-skinned one studied much information to resemble the devil, but hadn't seen such as John yet. Despite this, He for some reason believed he had everything for victory, and had already won, and began releasing beasts from David's book. Together with these actions, he pressed on the little girl to have her use her power. Because revelation must precisely touch the Old Testament so there won't be interventions from higher powers afterward, so he, through coercion, took possession of the child's consciousness. The child touched the book and it underwent changes the red-skinned creature desired. Locusts, their king, etc., came out of the book, and they recognized the red-skinned one as their king. This one who declared himself the devil said he would test every person on this earth and people would arrange vigilante justice. And in general, everyone will go to hell. The set of laws, Codex Gigas, that the devil established led to humanity disappearing, earth being in fire, and people in hell. Nevertheless, there were those who got out of it, and over the course of a year, only a third survived in such conditions, because on Earth, there were many mutated monsters, animals. John was also one of those who got out. He came upon a place where the audience was animals populating Earth, and they were watching people, as an analogy to circus. The main character took part in this action. He took down the monster and also protected the girl. And he helped her break out of that place, because the idea that was in those animals held her as if in prison. John also helped deal with the boss of this place, a rat who has idea that allows stopping others' actions and movements. Only, it didn't work on our hero because of the skill he possesses. It concerns ignoring attacks on consciousness. Those creatures also conducted various experiments on people and weren't in a hurry to return them to normal state. They said supposedly it won't be possible to do. And while they dragged out time with conversation, the beast that was going to attack John just came out to them. This is the very beast the main character met on his path when he came out to the surface from hell. He also saw that the rat had fed him 199 people, which in general inspired strong anger in John. He killed that hairy beast and moved on to others, and also noticed that when killing creatures an item falls from them as in games. Finally, he asked the girl where one could come upon people, and she gave a map, said the direction through the sewers. This way you can reach them. Having climbed up, he saw both people and those who served the devil after recent events. They opposed each other. John joined to help. After a successful struggle, he went together with those people. They walked through the sewers. Having reached the destination, John met there his friends, partners whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Although many of them weren't among them, he was told that his school's director became one of the first to return to Earth's surface and founded the community Those Who Returned. As a result of accumulated limited resources in conditions of pollution, those who weren't part of this organization suffered, so some still treated John with caution. As soon as the commander of these people hiding in the sewers heard that John defeated the hairy beast and that the rat was also gone, he rejoiced and immediately decided to go together with him to that place for medicine. Meanwhile, the community's commander already learned about the sewers and seawater and sent his people to take by force what's desired from that group. So regarding the guys who went to the shopping center for medicine, they filled full bags they took with them. When the guys descended to the sewer paths, the commander smelled smoke. He ran as fast as he could and saw that an attack had been made on their place. A group from Those Who Returned attacked. They wanted to capture this place and kill everyone who lived there before. One from the team chased after the attackers on their home to return the people they took with them, and he successfully helped them there. Although it's not so easy to reach the commander because of his skill, the guy had almost no strength left. They tried to hold him with chains and kill, but John came to help. The commander of Those Who Returned, or more precisely the former school director, didn't expect to see John, and even considering how much he'd grown, this commander has a power that allows establishing infinite distance between him and the opponent. Only considering John's skills and weapon, his trick won't work. Only John was distracted. That commander broke free, and his team began burning their place of residence. And also, a large number of locusts flew in. The main character decided to kill them. John's partners grabbed the director and went to save the people who were hostages. After the successful operation, John set off further in search of Casey. On the way, he saw how horses, locusts, even tigers from David's book attack people in large numbers. The hero stopped to help, but he didn't reveal his powers fully and also covered his face so as not to show his identity. And then he rose to the group of people who were defending. John was invited to their group's place of residence, particularly to be treated. He tried by possible tricks not to say who he really was. He even invented a silly pseudonym. The leader of this group of people shared stories from his life and about the combined sword, guillotine. It's such that it chooses its master itself and doesn't give itself into anyone's hands. This is such a blade that can also punish its victims. The only hope for saving people gathered in this place is a ship. When it's ready, they want to leave from there. While they were talking, the opponent had already approached. Moreover, immediately, the third level, which meant the outer wall was destroyed. They divided attack zones among themselves and began defense. The third beast from David's book and cavalry with it were approaching. During battle with the leopard, John had equal strength with it. After several strikes, another player appeared on the battlefield, Jack, who attacked John. The four-headed beast didn't think long, but used his ability to split into a large number of versions of himself and headed for the people. The medic and leader were already extremely exhausted by these attacks. John used the mouse's heart to create a creature from bones, a bone dragon. The opponent, meanwhile, captured the guillotine and actively attacked, but the dragon also proved strong. He can also summon an army of bone soldiers. Even despite Jack's subjugation ability, John was able to endow the dragon with an ability that ignored attempts at subjugation from the opponent's side. With such an approach, Jack decided to use the ability to summon fire rain, Armageddon. A moment of hopelessness as on the horizon, a strong sand whirlwind appeared, which tamed this rain. Moreover, creatures were approaching their direction, and they were attacking the four-headed one. And their boss was a girl with the idea goblin. Jack didn't continue the clash, but grabbed the sword and with the four-headed one, returned to his boss. When the threat passed, there was a joyful reunion with friends they hadn't seen for a long time. The group decided to split up and each go their currently needed way, and Jack returned to his boss and brought him the sword and told the situation he encountered. While Casey and John were on the way to China, Casey showed a new sword function, Sand Fairy. She repels what can harm. Both crossed the river on the dragon. They hadn't had time to look around when they were already expected here. They also grabbed two of John's friends. Only they were in a stupor state, didn't control themselves and wounded John. Besides the lion, the fourth beast also joined the confrontation. Moreover, over these 5 years, they became much stronger. John and Casey were in a difficult situation because their dragon was destroyed. Casey was immobilized by the opponent's idea. John decided to jump into the water ball that was nearby, where they wanted to get. There should be one of the tower's higher creatures. Meanwhile, Casey, almost powerless, approached John and gave him the sand fairy, and with one movement, he got into that water ball. John, coming to his senses, immediately thought to break through the sphere, but here that creature appeared, Queen of the Abyss Doror. She said she wouldn't let him meet with Alex, and to the request to send John back, she answered that he won't save his friends because he's too weak now. And already, the main character tries to negotiate, unite against a common enemy, even offers to be friends, which caused a positive reaction. During the conversation, John's wounds opened, which he had been holding back all this time. And at this moment, the sand fairy worked. The hero was covered by armor. Then a knife got into the water ball that can take possession of a person's consciousness. But it didn't work on John, only angered him, and he revealed a new ability, Savage Form. He breaks out from the ball and attacks the opponent. There was only the lion. When John heard that Casey and other friends were taken, his anger grew to even greater scales. He lost his mind. Dodo wanted to help him return to normal state, which she had to accept her true form. Alex hurried to help in time. John calmed down a bit when words reached him not to carry everything on himself alone. Then Doror used her ability for final calming. Violet just came out of the ball to them, after which there was discussion of the current situation and plan. They hadn't managed to move to actions when the fourth beast from David's book climbed out of a shining cross and attacked them. Doror and Alex remained on the battlefield. All others left this place. One of the battle moments is that Doror uses her ability on the fourth creature for a duration of 24 hours. During battle, Alex summons the second creature from David's book and says to spit out what he once asked him to swallow. It was just Doror's friend, King of Insects Revork. Doror explained who the opponent is and with whom one can be friends. Revork understood everything and immediately showed himself in battle. John, while in a fairly safe place, remained waiting until Violet brings others. He thought about the prohibition Doror imposed, ways how it can be bypassed, and something awakened in him. He decided to look inside himself. What he saw there surprised him. These were meadows and various creatures, namely a cat and a serpent. Serpent, villainy, cat, good. John opened a new ability for himself, erasing the record. He thinks it's precisely with its help that he'll manage to defeat opponents. But the first thing he did was return the dragon. Only this time, he's already with wings. And he and Violet set off to save Casey. Meanwhile, Bill survives in this world one-on-one. He was one of the first to return from hell, so it was especially hard for him. But this time, there were so many locusts, and he himself was exhausted that he already thought his time had ended. But no, in this state, a new ability and weapon appeared. A man approached him, and from his words, those people who evacuated reported it was worth coming to this district and helping. However, everything was already clean. This man was Sam, whom they hadn't seen for a long time. They gathered together to talk. Sam told about how his team traveled the country and looked for those who would want to fight. Bill remains with Sam's team. They will act together, save friends from the locust clutches. Casey isn't idle either. Despite being captured, she doesn't give peace to the offenders. Jack was fed up with her antics. Besides, some uninvited guests came to him, so he struck with his weapon at the ceiling, walls of the room where they're keeping Casey and a few more friends, and everything began to collapse. They remained alive, just the exit was blocked. The guys who were with Casey took on clearing the passage with great enthusiasm, and Bill, Sam, and others came to save people and came upon a locust squad. The rain ability was used, which felled the weak, but there was one of strong rank, even 8 weak partners to increase strength. At first, they were doing well fighting, but the leader created, with the help of ability, a pit into which everyone fell. Through that pit, they were thrown into prison. Moreover, they just got to where Casey was with her partners, and Jack went to meet them. Jack used all skills. Sam also has an interesting ability. The Sacred City doesn't work on him. Besides, he created spatial erosion and used the ability where the opponent had the weakest state and Sam the strongest. Unexpectedly, Jack called the third beast into this illusion. This was already a problem. However, Casey with friends appears in time. They just cleared those rubble. Now they will fight together.